Hey Dimes, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Diamond Alexis. I am a new grad registered nurse and I do nursing content, lifestyle content, and beauty content. If you're interested in any of that, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and please follow me on Instagram so that I can reach more people on that platform as well. So without further ado, because I know you know about the title and I know you're ready for this, let's talk about how I passed the NGN NCLEX. Okay, if I'm looking to the side, it's because I have a detailed format of how I want this video to go. I wanted it to be very organized and structured, and I don't want it to be too long. So let's get into it. So number one, establish a routine. If you watched my previous video, I talked about how I pushed back my NCLEX date 3 times and I was very unstructured without any routine. So I gave a good timeline of when I changed the dates and what I was doing in those times. So when I established a routine, this is what I came up with, and I'm looking to the side because I'll put it on the screen as well, but I do want to give, you know, as much accuracy as I can in talking about this to you all. So in week 1, I covered foundations and growth and development. This was between December 24th to December 30th. So I was able to cover this by using the Saunders app because that was what I was using at first. Now the Archer app comes into play January 14th to January 20th, but that would be me going ahead. One, there's foundations and growth and development from December 24th to December 30th. So when you use the if you choose to use this, I do advise, if you've already been paying for it during your nursing school journey, to use it. So try to use the resources that you've already been using in nursing school, or try to use them now before they expire. So if you want to use Archer after you graduate, I would suggest you do that, but try to use the resources that are already paid for during your program because they're there for you to use. Okay, so I went under the, so say you go into the app, the Saunders app, and it asks you what do you want to test yourself over. I would simply click foundations for the first half of the day, or the first 60 to 85 questions, whatever your number of questions that you're going to use. That's what I would do. Then I would read the rationales for that, the ones I got wrong. If I cannot remember it, like it was something that I just did not know at all, I would write it down. And then the next 85 questions will probably be at the end of the day, and then that will be over growth and development. Now, since these 2 topics were something that I wanted to test myself over in week 1, if I think that I have foundations down after doing 85 questions twice, like Monday and Tuesday, and I'm like, okay, I pretty much, you know, have this down, and I know that my problem is growth and development, then I would go to growth. I would hit on growth and development more. So maybe instead of 85 questions in growth and development, I would do 150, and I would sit there and write down and study the rationales a lot longer than I would for the foundations. Now, this type of schedule is only if you're going to be locked in with it. So if you feel like you can't cover that much stuff and type of stuff in 1 week, then don't do it. But this type of schedule that I'm going by is based off the fact that you already have the knowledge in your head from the whole 4 years of studying during this BSN. So a lot of this stuff is refreshers, or what do I not completely not know that I can make memory tricks for right now. You get what I'm saying? So this is not something you use to where it's like, I don't know any of this, so I'm gonna go by this. No, this is going based off, I have prior knowledge, which if you're a student and you're watching this video, you do. I would not advise trying to learn new things. It's too late for that. You already made it through the program. You're already done with graduation. There's nothing more you can learn. All that time to learn something is honestly and truthfully gone, because now it's time to take the NCLEX. It's time to show all the things that you've been learning. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm leaning in. sit up straight. So for week 2, I did maternity and pediatrics. Now I paired these two together, and if you pay attention, they're kind of paired together to where if something is a lot like kind of similar, I'm gonna put it together. So mother and baby, maternity and peds, pretty much straight shot with each other to me. I could have did pediatrics and growth and development, but the growth and development was from kid, like from baby all the way to adulthood, so I didn't want to go that broad and then come back and hit on one little thing like pediatrics, if that makes sense. So I did maternity and pediatrics for week 2, and this was from December 31st 2023 to January 6th 2024. So now we're into the new year. We have passed my first NCLEX date. So again, I was using the Saunders app, and I was filtering my questions to only talk about maternity. I would even blend them, maternity and pediatrics, and I would do 85 questions. I would read the rationales. I would read every rationale. I would put emphasis on reading the ones that I got wrong. If it would not click, I would write down the one that I got wrong that is just not clicking. So week 3 was med-surg by itself. We all know how vast and great med-surg is, how diverse and extensive med-surg is. I would not suggest adding any other type of topic with med-surg, because med-surg is its own topic. She stand by herself. Sis is good. So the only thing I did do with med-surg was a Mark K lecture, or lectures with an S, because I'm just listening. You do have the option to get the Mark K yellow and blue book, as well as the lecture notes, which I have that. But as I have said before, I'm not learning anything new. A lot of the stuff that is in my study thing, I have been doing this ever since I've been in nursing school, listening to Mark K lectures. I have things in my good notes that I was studying in 2021 from Mark K lectures. So I pretty much have Mark K lectures down. It's just refreshing, okay? Just refreshing it, just a refresher. So that was from January 7th to January 13th. Now week 4, I'm just finished the weeks out. Week 4 was complex care. So this is like critical care. So this is things that you need to know, like fluids, what emergency medications, like stuff like that. So I also paired that with Mark K lectures. That would be the prioritization lecture, which is lecture 12. That is talking about things that you need to prioritize, and if all else fails, choose this answer choice, or the ABCDs, like his critical, the things that he put that are critical, or you put on a back burner because it's only a or B, like stuff like that. That will be that. That was from January 14th to January 20th. This is when I put in the Archer app, and after that it was only Archer. So if you want to prevent confusion, I would suggest using Archer the entire time and doing it with this study schedule. But if you're doing what I said before, which is using your resources from nursing school, if you get tired of using Archer and you just need a clean slate, I would suggest using Saunders. It is advised to not get comfortable in one type of study method because of the simple fact that you will get exhausted or get used to it, or it will get too easy for you. So for example, I had some nursing students that said they started off using Archer, but they got so good at Archer because they have been using it for so long that everything was just too easy now. So then they went to UWorld. It's not wrong to advise you to use 2 different resources. It would be wrong to tell you to use every resource out there. So I hope that makes sense. So if you're going to use multiple resources, keep them at a minimum, maybe about 3. So the 3 that I used were Mark K lectures, that's my auditory, 2 practice questions apps, which was Saunders and Archer, and maybe even YouTube videos to get down these meds. So keep them at a minimum. Don't go through Simple Nursing and Archer and Saunders app and Archer and UWorld and Simple Nursing and Remar and like all of these different resources. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's a lot. But pretty much have a routine established. And a lot of these things that I'm telling you are things that I was already doing in nursing school, so it's just a refresher. So if you feel like it's too much, personalize it to what you can. But this is what I use, and it worked for me, and I actually passed the first time. So I'm not gonna steer you in the wrong direction. So After that, we have week 5. So week 5, I put comprehensive assessments, but if you have the Archer app, it will advise you to take an assessment every week and take a CAT exam every other week. So the reason why I put for week 5 and week 6 comprehensive assessments for that whole week, those whole 2 weeks, was because of the simple fact that I was trying to build endurance. I wanted to do 85 questions a day, or 150, whatever the assessment will have, because the CAT exam is vast. It will stop at whatever number that it feels like you passed or failed at. But the assessments, you would know for sure you're getting 85 questions or whatever the case may be. So the purpose of having that every day for those 2 weeks was to build endurance, to get my test taking down, which would be what tricks am I going to use, knowing my time limits, teaching myself not to second guess, like trying to establish a routine for when I go in there and study. And if you go in there and take the exam. If you watched my video before, through doing these comprehensive assessments every day, I realized what my plan was going to be when taking the NCLEX, and I'm going to get into that next. So like I said, week 5 and 6 were both comprehensive assessments. Week 5 was from January 21st to January 27th. Week 6 was January 28th to February 1st. After February 1st, I ceased anything. And the night before my NCLEX examination, I took an assessment, and I got 85 questions, and I think it was a high chance of passing or a very high chance of passing. That to me, I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing nothing else. I already got another chance of passing, like another thing that told me that I'm good, so I'm just gonna let it go. So February 2nd, 2024 was when I took the NCLEX and I passed it. So that was basically establishing a routine. So now let's go into the next tip. Use one nursing system and stick with it. I went from Evolve to the Saunders app to the Hesse Green Book practice questions to eventually Archer. And this is how I made 3 different NCLEX dates, because I did not establish a routine or a nursing system. So like I said before, early in this video, you don't have to just strictly stay on one nursing system, because that is kind of unrealistic. You're going to get tired, or you're either going to over excel that system, and it's going to be time for you to get a clean slate. You never want to get too comfortable to where you're like, okay, I'm passing all of this stuff, I'm doing well, this is easy to me. You kind of, if I'm being honest, you kind of want it to be hard, because when I was in school, before I graduated, we had a Kaplan advisor, or like someone who actually worked for Kaplan, come in and teach us and give us tricks for the NCLEX. One of the things that she said that stood out to everybody, and she repeated numerous times, was that when asking the people who basically made the NCLEX, what is one key takeaway you can give for people who are going to take the exam, is that their tip was that you want to get to the hard questions, because that will kind of give you some insight on the fact that you are passing the exam. So, and I could believe that, because when I was taking the NCLEX, the questions started getting hard, and I was like, and I was trying not to be like, oh, this might mean I'm passing, because I didn't want to give myself too much hope, because, you know, anything could happen. But I was like, yeah, dude, I see what they're talking about. It gets harder. It's a comprehensive exam. It's built to test and to challenge you, right? So like I said, yes, you want to establish a routine, but you don't want to get too comfortable in it, because you do want to build endurance. You want to get to the hard questions. You don't want to just keep yourself enclosed in ease or easiness, because how are you going to challenge yourself? How are you going to grow if for 2 weeks straight everything is easy to you, passing everything? You need a new system. That's just with anything. So be comfortable, but don't get too comfortable, okay? The next thing is be realistic with yourself. So what will you do and not do as you prepare for this NCLEX examination? So for example, on my 12-hour shifts, I learned that by trial and error, I cannot do practice questions. Like, I would not be able to make it through any amount of questions as a nurse tech. Like, I would try to do 10 questions or 50 questions or 85, but what I figured out was that was very, like, having an over expectation, because I need to be paying attention to my patients. On top of that, there's a lot of things that I can learn as a nurse tech that I would be missing out on by simply trying to do practice questions and not exposing myself and taking advantage of the people who are willing to teach me. So some things that I would do when I would go to work, I would tell people like, I'm in nursing school, or if they ask, I'll be like, I'm in nursing school, you know, I'm getting ready to graduate, whatever. And you have a lot of very amazing, oh my gosh, nurses who will take the time out of their shift to teach you or show you things that you do not know. Or if you're like me, you know, certain things that are at school are not updated. So to see the updated things and somebody's actually like pouring into you, oh my gosh, it is a beautiful thing. So try not to be so into your phone or into your notes while you're studying, while you're working, because a lot of things that you can get the answers to in some of these questions are things that you can do with experience. Yes, keep in mind that you have to go textbook based, because a lot of things that nurses do are like shortcuts to getting the job done that the NCLEX doesn't want you to do. So be mindful of that. But I am telling you that sometimes you can use your experiences to get these answers correct by just putting yourself in a position to. So remember that. So I just learned the best thing that worked for me on my downtime at work was having a study packet to review notes. Not notes that I made, but notes from credible sources. So maybe somebody did a big UWorld review, or Simple Nursing has like those informational quick mnemonics or quick one sheet study sheets, cheat sheets that you can print out if you pay for the service, and you can print them out and put them in a packet, make it a packet, and look over it. So things like that. So what I did, and I'm gonna link it, I use the site allnurses.com. I hope I'm saying the right thing. And it has, and I actually got this from my friend. She's a nurse, labor and delivery RN. She passed down this to me. It's a HESI NCLEX like gigantic review made by, I think, maybe 4 to 5 people who passed, and they had put their brains together to put down the things that they reviewed or studied and remembered, and they put it on one big website. And what I did is I printed it out in PDF, and I had the packet, stapled it, I folded it in like a brochure, and I would just slip it in the side of my pocket in my scrubs, so that whenever I got downtime during my shift, I'm looking at the notes. Because all I'm doing is reading. I'm not taking anything away from anybody. If I take a break, looking at the notes. If I'm walking around, I have nothing to do, looking at the notes. If I've rounded on all my patients, cleaned everybody up, got them water, there's nothing else for me to do. I don't see anything wrong with just reviewing a study packet. What I do found that was most helpful too was if I had additional information that I got from practice questions, or from just remembering, or just anything like Mark lecture, something, I would write it down. I would write down, okay, this is not on this packet, and maybe I would write it down, and I ended up finding it in the packet. But just stuff like that, adding to it what you can. Don't over add, because that packet is pretty detailed, it's pretty good, and I'm linking it. But that's something that I found what helped me was not to do, like figuring out what works for you. If you are night shift, maybe night shift you can do practice questions, but I was day shift, so practice questions was out of the discussion. But I did, attempt. That's why I said through trial and error, I did attempt. Did not work successfully for me. So if people know me, they see me with their little packet, that was my bestie till I passed the NCLEX. So next, oh my gosh, I cannot even, this next tip, I cannot even emphasize this enough. Please know your labs and baseline vital signs. Let me tell you a reason why. This is not to bring drama into anything, but this is to bring realisticness that I have seen every semester. Everybody tells this story, and this is not to toot my school's horn, but this is very important. So if I can give you some advice to carry with you from me, I'm gonna give it to you. So almost every semester, it never fails, clinicals. My school, there will be students on the same unit as another school, and sometimes labs just come up through normal conversation. They'll ask something like literally like a lab that you're supposed to know that's very important. What is the baseline or the normal range for potassium? We all know it's 3.5 to 5 or 3.5 to 4.5 in some books, or you know, whatever, but the range is normally 3.5 to 5. But other nursing students or schools would not even know that. Okay, so what is the baseline for sodium? 135 to 145. Each time my school, that student would know, they would know their labs, and the other students would be far off, like 2 seconds away from graduating and not know their labs. Meanwhile, the student that came from my school would either be in their 3rd semester or 4th semester, and they would know their labs like the back of their hand. This was a story that would never fail. It was always something that came up, and it wasn't the student shunning the other student. It was the nurses like, how do you not know? You're about to be walking out. And it's not like, oh my God, like you're supposed to, like, it's literally like, that's supposed to be something that's in the back of your head. And let me tell you why. Almost every question is going to tie into a lab. The answer will literally be in those labs. Like a lot of the times, even me doing practice questions, I have my labs down so good. I'll skim a question or read the question and skim the labs, and I'll be like, oh, okay, dehydration. Like, it will help you with so much. So if I cannot like emphasize this enough, not only just know your labs, know the interpretation of the labs. Like if sodium is low or high, what does that correlate to? Overhydration, dehydration, like what does that correlate with? And know the term, not knowing like it's just low sodium, know the hyponatremia or hypernatremia or hypokalemia, hyperkalemia. Like know, not only know whether it's low or high numerically, but know the actual terminology for it and the interpretation for it. And once you get it down, let me tell you what's so easy about that. Once you know one, you know the other. They're opposites. So get that down, please. If you don't take nothing else from this video, get that down. So next, pay attention to the case studies. If you watched my video before, I know I keep referencing it, but it was my experience. It is the most realistic thing to me. So I feel like going back to that is perfect. So pay attention to the case studies. Literally details on how you answer the question, clues will be on the next question. So when you answer one question, you get it right, or you put your answer choice in, you press submit, the next question will say, it'll say, so the patient has been diagnosed with hyperthyroidism. And you think about your last question, you're like, I chose that. If it was a select out of apply, that was one of my choices. You're on the right track. Keep going. Try to find hope in it. To me, I'm finding hope in every little thing, because there ain't nothing like answering a question and the next question saying what you put. Baby, that is an excellent feeling. Like I can't even put into words how good that feels, because I'm on the right track. It's a case study. It builds up on itself. So if I'm building up into the right thing, yeah, give me all of that. So that's why I say pay attention. Then another thing, pay attention, because they'll have nurse notes, then they'll have the physician's orders, then they'll have the labs. You have 3 things to go through. Remember what I said in that last tip, knowing them labs. If you see the TSH and TH labs, and you just know it's thyroidism, something, hypo or hyper, you go to the next question, they clarify, they actually say, so the patient has been diagnosed with hyper. You like, oh, I knew. And it all built up on each other. You knew the baseline, you knew the labs, you knew what the interpretation was for it, you saw it in the answer choice. Do not doubt yourself. So yeah, pay attention to those, because there will be a set of maybe like six questions, and they'll be adding nurse notes or providers orders each time a new question comes. It literally builds upon itself. So that's why I would also suggest you do case studies, because you got to build that endurance. When I was first doing case studies, I was so drained. I was like, how can this be one question? This is giving 10 questions in one. I was like, what's going on? But once you start getting used to it, I started loving case studies. When I had my NCLEX and they kept giving me case studies, I was like, I like this. It's so easy to keep up with. It's not, I feel like why I like it is because out of all the comprehensiveness in the NCLEX, that was something that was kind of consistent. It was one thing. You got one patient, one diagnosis, and you just trying to figure it out. You got all the information you need. You just trying to put it all together. So that's why I say you don't hate them case studies. They'll help you. Okay, so like I said before, this can hint to you that you're on the right track. Okay, so let's go into the next step. Okay, the next tip, y'all, don't do what I did. Get one NCLEX date and stick with it. Commit to it, baby. Do not be pushing it back 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Don't do that. Don't do that. Get ready and take the exam. Take it seriously, okay? I took it seriously, but I let anxiety get the best of me. So, that's really all I can expound on that, because that's self-explanatory. Don't do it. The next one is, when taking the NCLEX, have a system. So if you watch my previous video, I know y'all tried to be saying it, but if you watch my previous video, I detailed on how I had established pretty much a good anyway, if you watch my previous video, I detailed on how I came in with the system, and I used the process of elimination, and I took the dry erase little laminated paper that they gave me, board that they gave me with the dry erase, and I basically put A, B, C, D, or 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 for the select all that applies, and or case studies, and I would literally just cross it out physically, because I wasn't using a system that let me physically click the answer choice and it'll scratch it out for me. I had to basically find a way to do it without the resources that I had before, like when I was studying using the Arch app. That's pretty much how I did mine. So you can do something similar to that, or personalize and make it your own, but I detailed that really well in my last video, and I showed an example. Another thing is basically expect the unexpected. This portion is where I talk about my experience, but I have a video on that, so I'm not gonna waste your time in this video. But basically, expect the unexpected. You pretty much get a heads up on the palm vein scanning when you're signing up for the NCLEX, but you don't know how exactly it's gonna be. So be prepared for that. Be prepared for traffic. Take your breaks. Don't go straight in taking the exam and fueling yourself with exhaustion. Remember to be timed. So be timely. Don't spend too much time on the question if you don't have to. You do have a lot of time, so you can if you want to. Have a positive attitude. Please eat and be very kind to yourself. And lastly, if all else fails, choose the answer that is safest for the patient and that will keep the patient alive. If I don't give you any other advice, that is the most important. So that is the end of my video. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.